everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my incredible episode with Sarah Jakle, founder and executive director of DemocraShe. In this continuation, we're joined by two inspiring young leaders, Makaela and Hanna, both seniors in high school who are already making a powerful impact in civic engagement. They are both part of the DemocraShe model. This episode is filled with insight on how DemocraShe helps to build the next generation of political female leaders. We talk about a few of DemocraShe's resiliency concepts, like the power of and, inner best friend, grounding work, and the importance of leading with compassion. Sarah says she had no idea she was training her whole life for 2025. But it's clear these young voices are exactly what the world needs right now. The Today's the Day Changemakers podcast has been downloaded in over 913 cities and 76 countries around the globe. And conversations like these are exactly why. If you haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like what you hear? Give us a like, share a comment, and share with others. You can stream this podcast on all major platforms. Don't forget to visit us at todayisthedayliveit.com to learn more about the services we offer, from coaching and training to consulting for entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations, and of course, Changemakers. I work alongside mission-driven individuals and teams to help them align with their purpose, grow their impact, and build meaningful, lasting success. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jody Grinwald, and as I say every week, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And this is a continuation to an episode that I had with Sarah Jakle, who is the founder and executive director of DemocraShe. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Jody.
I am so happy to have you back. And we have some guests with us today. But before we get to that, and I'm so excited, I can't wait to hear from them. I just want you to kind of let the audience know, if they didn't listen to part 1 of this interview, what DemocraShe is about and why you started.
Sure. DemocraShe is a national nonpartisan nonprofit, and we are online peer-led with two of the extraordinary peer leaders with us today. Workshop training for high school girls around the country to get them engaged as civic and future elected leaders. And we do that with 2 tracks. We have practical training to have young students become engaged, informed advocates. And we have resiliency training to make sure they can overcome the barriers that we know are on an intersectional woman's journey.
Wow. I mean, that came right out. That would honestly, you could see right there is your total love and passion for the work that you do. And how old is DemocraShe now?
DemocraShe is 4 years old. We were founded just after the 2020 election.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. So I'm going to now introduce very briefly the 2 lovely young women who are here with us today, and then we can't wait to get into a conversation with them. I'll read a little bit about both of you first, and then we'll get into talking with you. So Makaela is up first. She's 17. She's been a leader in DemocraShe for 2 years, educating young girls on civic engagement. She leads the Black Student Union and Student Diversity Council and takes on roles to address global inequalities. And Hanna is a high school senior passionate about civic engagement, youth advocacy, and political representation. She's president of, tell me if I get this wrong, LAUSD's board, District 2, Student Advisory Council, and Leadership Team. Oh, good, I got it right. She's a leadership team member of DemocraShe, and she envisions a progressive, civically engaged LA where youth play a role in policy implementation. And there was so much more from both of your bios that were sent to me, and I appreciated that. But instead of reading them out to everybody and to the listeners, who, by the way, I just want to thank, over 865 cities have downloaded this podcast. So thank you for that very, very much. So your voices will be heard here. And if you haven't, just a quick note, please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. So, Makaela, let's go to you first, since I talked about you in your bio. What made you, and I know you're on mute right now, but what made you decide to become a part of DemocraShe?
Yes. So what made me decide to become a part of DemocraShe was actually one of my closest friends who went through the cohort herself and was like, wow, like this is something that you would absolutely love. So I joined the cohort myself and I went through we went through all the workshops. I absolutely adored the community. I learned so much and I took so much away from DemocraShe. And I was asked to join the leadership team, and I'm so thankful that I'm able to continue to pour all this incredible information and knowledge into other young girls who are also interested in finding spaces where there are other passionate women and also remaining civically engaged.
So if there's a young potential student leader on right now who's like, what does democracy mean exactly? Like, if I wanted to become a part of this, what would I get out of it? Can, in your own words, can you share that so that somebody out there who might be interested could get involved?
Yes. So out of it, I would say you would get so many different like skills that would help you succeed as a young leader. And another thing that you would get out of it is an incredible sisterhood where women uplift women and inspire and unconditionally support and love on one another, and just like embrace each other's power.
Beautiful. Sarah, how did it feel to hear all that?
I have no words for Michaela and Hannah. It's these extraordinary young women who got me inspired to start DemocraShe in 2021 because I feel like high school girls are underrated. I feel like they're extraordinary. I feel like they're capable. Hannah and Michaela, as I'm sure they'll tell you, work as on a professional level running these workshops. And I feel like because they can't yet vote, they are overlooked. And it's when they speak and I get a chance to hear them that I'm reminded again why I'm so inspired to do this.
Oh, I love this. This is why I do this podcast because for those who have these incredible organizations that are impacting so many incredible people to have a voice. And so I totally am so thrilled to have you both on. Hannah, I'd like to give you an opportunity to share. So what got you connected to democracy and what have you been getting out of being a part of it as a leader?
Yeah. So a really funny story actually. Sarah actually visited my high school for a or during a college slash career fair, and she was at a table and she was so happy and so bubbly and so excited as she always is. And I just remember approaching the table because it was in the law slash policy area. And I just remember really being drawn to an organization for so many reasons. I just remember first hearing from Sarah how excited she was to see me without even knowing me. And I think that was one of the first things that instantly drew me to democracy. I really did think that if Sarah, who doesn't know me, is as excited and she's pitching a team who is even more excited to get to know me and to learn alongside me, then democracy would be the space for me. So that drew me in. And I think what is the second part of the question was what is can you repeat it please?
Absolutely. So what is it given to you? What are you getting out of being a leader and
Yeah.
being part of democracy?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think Michaela said it beautifully. I think unconditional love, enormous amounts of support, just a true sisterhood that is there by your side unconditionally and is just really ready to listen to you and uplift one another and work besides you on your journey to empowerment and empowering others, which I think is so important, especially right now in time.
Absolutely. We'll get into that a little bit too in a little bit. Michaela, so when when those who are listening may not understand, give us a little bit about, and I'm going to ask you both the same question, the nuts and bolts of what it is, starting from the beginning. You decide you want to become part of democracy. What does that mean? And what do you start working on right away?
Sorry, I'm thinking.
No,
Could you
that's
repeat the
okay.
question again?
Sure. So if somebody's listening right now and they're like, you know what, this sounds very interesting. I really would like to become part of this, but I'd love to get a little bit more about like what. So if I start and I sign up, what does that mean? What are some of the nuts and bolts that I'm going to be learning from the leaders of the group? And what am I going to be taking away from this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that like in signing up for democracy, one of the main things that you will be taking away is an entire toolkit of incredible resiliency skills that will help you in becoming the best leader you could possibly be. So like in DemocraShe, there's like they're always on like the top of my head, just like so many resiliency skills, and I'm sure we'll go into them later, but like inner best friend or the power of and or savoring the good, just like all these different skills that you yourself know that you have to help you in any situation, whether it be a conflict that you're encountering with somebody else, or you're about to go on stage and you need like a tool to just help you process and settle down. All these tools that will help you in the leadership world. And I feel like it's so good because I take these skills and I literally learn them and I use them all the time. And they're just so useful in my day-to-day life. And I feel like I've definitely grown as a leader because of them. So in joining DemocraShe, that's definitely one of like the main things that like once you sign up, that's something that you're guaranteed to take with you.
You know, public speaking is probably, I believe, I could be wrong on this statistic, but the number one fear for most people is to stand in front of, it's like second to the fear of flying. And so I have that fear of flying, but I could talk in front of anybody now. But when I was your age, both of your ages, that I would want to hide under the desk. There was no way I would ever want to speak in front of people. Makaela, how does it feel for you to get up there? And have you always felt very comfortable being up in front of an audience?
I would say to some extent, yes. I feel like it was just because of the way that I was raised, but also like I've been like throughout my life, I've always been like encouraged to just do the best that I can. And like in DemocraShe, the motto is you can't do it wrong. So just having that confidence constantly instilled in me is what allows me to public speak confidently without like fear, because at the end of the day, I'm doing it for myself. Um, and that's all that really matters. So I would say it's definitely like a skill that I've grown in being in DemocraShe, like taking my knowledge and pouring it into other girls. But I wouldn't say that it was something that just came naturally.
Yeah, I know it's hard. It's hard. Hannah, I'm going to ask you the same question. How have you always felt very comfortable being in a leadership role even before DemocraShe? And were you ever afraid of public speaking?
Um, I don't necessarily know if I was ever afraid of public speaking. I think I've always been placed in a position in my life in which public speaking was part of the job and part of the role. This is revolving like home life, working alongside my parents. Public speaking has always been a part of my life, but I don't think it has always been in a leadership way within something like DemocraShe, in which I'm leading a curriculum alongside such amazing women. And I genuinely think that what really makes DemocraShe such a safe space is what Makaela mentioned. That idea that you can't do it wrong and that you're grounded to Mother Earth. All of these resiliency skills and all the toolkit that DemocraShe provides really does tie into the idea of the nuts and bolts of what makes DemocraShe. And it is an unconditional supportive community whose resiliency skills ground you in your work, specifically in becoming a better leader. And they really make you both empathetic and wise, because I think DemocraShe is so amazing. And I don't know, I think there's just so much that I've grown to understand as a leader in DemocraShe, and so much more that I'm learning as we meet new women and we engage in any new cohort. And it's such an amazing experience.
I have to say, I only wish it was around when I was younger because public speaking was definitely my biggest fear. I think judgment, we're always afraid of being judged, right? That's why public speaking can be so difficult. Sarah, I'd love for you to share a little bit more too of the nuts and bolts in it, for this episode. Again, for those who are listening to hear it from you, what it means to be part of DemocraShe and the importance, especially right now, in the fact of building female leaders, female strong leaders. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to mention this real quick before I forget, because it's my age. If I don't say it now, it'll go away. I remember when we first spoke, we talked about women saying, "Oh, yeah, I'll run for councilwoman." You know what I mean? Or I'll run for, and not for governor, let's say. And it's making it so that you're creating, and providing the skill set necessary for women to take these leadership roles. So I, again, just sharing with everybody what that skill set is about and what are those things and tools that you're providing these girls.
Yeah. And I would say it isn't even women saying they can run for councilwoman, not governor. It's women not being able to even think they can run for councilwoman.
Mhm.
Well, our male counterparts are like, I was thinking governor. And again, our male counterparts aren't doing anything wrong. It's just that women are socialized with imposter syndrome and perfectionism that makes us doubt our very real capabilities. And then when we do step into leadership spaces, we get very different pushback, right, in those spaces. And I think part of the reason when Makaela and Hanna are talking about the nuts and bolts of democracy being the resiliency, of course, we teach things like how to call your representative or how to take local action and show up at a school board meeting or how to be in democracy Congress and pass and co-sponsor bills. I think what makes us unique and different from other civic engagement is we're also addressing what are the thoughts that come into a young woman's head. And to your exact example, Jody, for something like public speaking, right? Which is they're going to judge me, right? My voice doesn't matter. And one of the things we'll ask before we use something like inner best friend is what does your inner critic say? And we'll name her because the research shows that helps take away a little of her power. And the chat will fill up with my voice doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it right, right? They won't listen to me. And then when we tap into the inner best friend that Makaela was talking about, the chat fills up with I do matter. What I have to say is important. I can do this. And that's what gives that young woman the chance to change the socialized narrative and step into her true, authentic ambition. And one of the things I was thinking as I was listening, I mean, Makaela and Hanna are just two pieces of my heart. And I was thinking, Makaela and Hanna, we talk kind of abstractly about resiliency skills, but I know Makaela, I'm actually thinking of a recent example, the social media example, where you put into practice the resiliency skills to be able to deal with a very tough situation. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing that story.
Yes. So a couple of weeks ago, I at my school every year we have a social justice day where all classes are canceled and we dedicate the day to having student-led workshops that are like pre-planned for months. So this was my first time leading a workshop. I'm in an ethnic studies class and we're all required to put on a workshop. So this workshop would consist of like, I mean, it would be a replacement for a class. So it was 80 minutes long. And it was one of like the most challenging presentations that I have ever had to give, just because I was presenting to such a young audience on such a controversial topic, which was social media and social media influencers and their impact on young impressionable audiences. And I was definitely nervous to say the least. It was, we were talking about gender, we were talking about politics, we were talking about social media, and we were talking about specific influencers that different people may have different opinions on. And the last thing that I wanted to do was offend anyone or make any generalizations that someone disagreed with. But the one resiliency skill that I walked into that the room with before I started my presentation was thank you brain, which is a resiliency skill that's essentially saying like when your brain is flooding you with all these negative thoughts saying, oh, you can't do it or you're gonna mess it up. It's like, thank you brain. I hear that message, I receive it, but and I'm gonna acknowledge it, but like I got this. Like I still got this and I'm gonna go on that stage and I'm gonna just do what I do. And whatever happens, happens. But just being able to acknowledge that my brain is it's making me aware of the feelings that I'm having. And maybe that like new conscious awareness that I have, like, oh, I'm nervous in this moment and my brain is flooding me with negativities. I could put other resiliency skills into practice now too, like grounding. And it's like I'm gonna thank my brain for making me aware that I'm having these negative thoughts, and I'm gonna still go out there and I'm gonna shine and I'm gonna do my presentation. And it went incredible. But yeah, that's an example of when I use Thank You Brain, which is one of DemocraShe's resiliency skills.
That's incredible. And I think I need to take this course. But it's funny because you mentioned I've not always, recently, not too long ago, I started naming that side of me that's the critic. And it really, really does make a difference and it really does help. But I love the thank you brain concept so much. That's wonderful. And Sarah, I can't say it enough how incredible and the amazing impact that you are having. Now, how many different cohorts are there across how many states?
Yeah, so and this we've seen actually explosive growth. I will say, if you're looking at the Radiant, Michaela, and Hannah, there are so many high school girls across our country. There are 8 million total who are incredible advocates and ready to use their voices. So we grew from 24 girls in 2022 because we were trying out our theory of change that incorporating these evidence-based practices into how we create young civic leaders would have an effect, and running pre-post tests with that. And then when we saw it worked and that we could replicate it, in 2023, we served 173 girls, and in 2024, 485. So there's so much hunger and excitement out there for this kind of work, and so many astonishing young girls that, we get 3 times more applications than we can handle. So we do run 3 cohorts in the fall that are 10 weeks long of 2 hours each, 3 cohorts in the spring, same. Summer intensives are best of DemocraShe 1-day intensives. And then we have a fixed asset of a self-directed curriculum, which exists on our website. And Michaela and Hannah, I believe, are 2 of the young leaders who do the videos that walk you through our content. And anybody can access that for free right now. So everyone can have access to these ideas.
That is amazing. All right. Tell them what your website is so that they can have that access.
I love that question, Jody. It is democrashe.org. So exactly spelled like the word democracy, but with a she. And someday I hope those two are interchangeable.
I do too. I do too. Sarah, because you know the girls so well, is there anything else you want to ask of them before I move on to something else that I think is important?
I would just say, Hannah, I used my inner best friend today because I was actually getting an infusion for my psoriatic arthritis, and I was showing up for myself getting the infusion because it was hard. And my inner best friend chimed in with me and helped me through that. So my inner best friend helps me all the time. And I was wondering, my dear, again, we talk about these abstract concepts like an inner best friend, but who your inner best friend is and ways that she has shown up for you.
So beautiful.
I love that question. And I think the more years I spend with DemocraShe, the more inner best friends and versions of them I almost unlock them. It's kind of really interesting. Well, for a really long time it was Curious George and Shakira, both for very completely different reasons. I think Shakira was that empowered figure that I really wanted to see in my life, and her music is amazing. And then Curious George, on the other hand, just doesn't typically speak on screen. So giving him a voice really gave him power, and I really love that in my brain. And recently it's been little me as I'm tackling college acceptances and decision season. But I think in recent time, I've used Inner Best Friend a lot lately because I think high school really does require you to have an inner best friend. And I think a lot of instances in which inner best friend have most played a part in my life currently is as I've opened up and gone through the college decision process and just really filling out those applications, period. I really needed an inner best friend, especially because I was filling them out during winter break and I didn't have a lot of people by my side to help me, especially friends, because everyone was super busy doing their own thing. And I think when submitting things and when working on so many things at once, and this can be applied anywhere in life, you start getting overwhelmed and you need someone to ground you in your work. And sometimes grounding may not work, but I think I really did work with my inner best friend to tell me that I can keep going. And even when things get hard and filling out so much gets difficult and you just don't want to write anymore, you can, because your inner best friend knows you can. And that's enough to get you through. So recently I think my inner best friend has been really put to use. She might need a break, I'm not even gonna lie, but yeah, I love inner best friend and I think everyone should have one.
And I actually have a follow-up if it's okay, Jody.
Absolutely.
Hannah, you ran for office. You ran for school board. I am so proud of you. How did Inner Best Friend or Ground Your Thing, how did it help you in that process?
My gosh. Yeah, so last year I had the opportunity to run for LAUSD, so the second largest school district in the United States, their student board member position. And historically, there hasn't been many student board members. It is a newer program, and it allows for student voice to empower the over 500,000 students that attend our school district, and that is a huge role. And I remember when I got to the top 9 finalists who were now going to basically run their campaign, ac advocating and pushing for their name to be heard on so many different platforms. I remember I was really anxious and I was really scared because I was pushing my campaign to schools that I didn't even know the students that went there. And just like running for office, that's super difficult. And at a young age, I remember being really anxious at the fact that people weren't going to get my message or I wasn't going to be there to clear up any confusions that they had. And I think in many of those situations, even when recording my campaign videos, I would ground. I would thank my brain, like Makaela said, and acknowledge that all of these fears and everything that I may be feeling is valid and it is okay. And I'm going to continue pushing to win and to really get the message out there that we need leaders to advocate and empower our community members because only that way can we all succeed together and really attain the resources that we need. So I think after a while, it became a huge motivator for me because it was about more than just me and winning the campaign. It was about truly empowering my community as I pushed through. So I think all of my resiliency skills played a huge role. And our best friend walked me through the process, but grounding was huge as well.
So beautiful and so well said. You both are incredible speakers, honestly. So poised, and I love it. Hannah, before we turn this over to Makaela for a minute, I just had a question. So, what do you want to go to school for?
Yeah, I love that question. I think honestly, for all the schools that I applied to, it was a mix of political science, government, public policy, and a little bit of business administration because of the background that I have. And my goal is to be a lawyer and possibly a politician in my future. So, and I think only because of DemocraShe can I truly say that is something that I aspire to do and know that is possible.
Yes, Sarah's doing a great job of empowering all of you with the right skills, and it's so beautiful. And Makaela, what about yourself? What do you want to go to school for?
Yeah, similar to Hannah, I'm interested in studying political science because I truly believe in the power of policy to create real lasting change, especially as the local level. And that's one of the things that I've learned from democracy. And just like from experiencing and like my experience in working civically, whether it's like advocating for marginalized communities or participating in different leadership programs or like working on voter registration initiatives, like I feel like I've seen firsthand how politics like directly impact people's lives daily. And local government shapes so much, everything from like housing to education to public safety and like economic opportunity. And I'd love to be a part of that process. So I feel like just learning more about it, I would definitely be able to do that if I like pursue an education in political science specifically.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see your name on ballots coming up in the near future. And I look forward to the opportunity to vote for both of you in whatever position, if I can, if I'm living in the state wherever you are. But Sarah, any other things you wanted to ask Makaela or Hannah before I move on to a different topic?
I don't know if this is getting ahead, but like Hannah and Makaela, we are in a crazy political situation in 2025.
You're
I
going right where I was going, so this is good.
Amazing.
Perfect.
I was just going to say, my dears, what democracy skills are you using right now to continue to hold on to hope, if you are, that things can be different, will be different, and that fundamentally women matter and nothing will change that?
Who would like to go first?
I could go first.
Awesome.
When I think of that question, it like immediately the power of and pops into my head. With like the way that I see like the future going, like I personally have a lot of doubt, but similarly to the way that like the power of and has transformed the way that I think of difficult conversations, um, particularly in spaces where I might be underestimated or dismissed. When I think of the word and, like I think of it as holding room for other perspectives and still staying true to my own values. And like that makes me feel positive and hopeful for like the future. And it just like makes me happy. Like it just like knowing that like I have like the confidence and like just I don't know, like the ability to like hear things that I might disagree with, but be like, you know what? That's an opinion and this is my own personal belief. And just like knowing that like more people are having the confidence to voice their own opinions is what makes me have confidence for our future and like our future government. But I don't know, that question just really reminded me of the power of Anne and just like having the ability to speak up from yourself and having an open mind to diverse opinions, but also staying true to your own values. And I feel like me personally staying true to mine is what empowers me to like want to be in government one day, where I could hopefully advocate for the voices of so many people whose values align with mine. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, Makaela. Of course, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Hannah?
I think I'm going to also say the power of and the idea of viewing other people's lived experiences and just viewing them through an intersectional lens, both of which are super important to me. One, which is a resiliency skill. I think, like Michaela worded it so beautifully, the power of and gives me so much hope. I think with so many colliding ideas and with just so much hatred in the world, we always forget the idea that you can hold somebody's opinion and your own as well. And you can hold two ideas together at the same time, acknowledge both. And you don't always have to convince somebody. That's something that we actually covered in this week's resiliency skill or this week's session. We were talking about the idea that the power of and is super important, and you don't have to convince people to agree with you. And that's something that I think always triggers a lot of commotion and anger because people feel the need to convince others to believe them. And that always isn't necessarily what you have to do. So I really do think that the power of and gives me hope and really leads me to believe that our world can build on the empathy that exists and we can just be kinder to one another. The power of and gives me that hope and just really viewing other people's lives through an intersectional lens is so, so important. And it is something that democracy has made so relevant for me. I'd never heard of the idea of intersectionality anywhere else. And I really do think that the idea of viewing someone's life through an intersectional lens and being empathetic and truly understanding other people's experiences allows you to build on your own and understand other people and just really get to interpret their lived experiences and build on your own.
And
I
I
hope that
think, oh, sorry. I was to the Hannah's point. I think something in 2025 that we're really covering in democracy is that absolutely we use our lived experience and powers of persuasion to advocate and change minds. And there are some people who are not interacting in good faith. And it's okay to recognize that and realize that doesn't change my opinion and how I feel about it. And I can say, that's what you believe and step back and protect myself. It's like both sides of the coin. We both want to go forward and advocate passionately for what we believe in and change minds and build coalitions and protect ourselves as women when we recognize that's not in good faith. And I don't have to engage you, and I can step back and protect myself. And those are both parts of persuasion, changing minds and protecting yourself.
You know, it's interesting, and I want to share this because I'd love to get your take on this of all of you. So I won't say the name, but, and you talked about social media. There was someone on my social media the other day, older than me, okay, who put some really derogatory things about, anybody who is not thinking the way they are thinking, okay? And it was really difficult to not just read what he wrote but to read the comments, which I don't know why I tortured myself to do, but to read the comments about putting down those of us who believe that things are not going in the right direction. And I'm careful because I know that I have listeners that feel all different ways, but there's also something to be said about speaking up for your own truth, and that I truly do believe. And so to hear a grown man put down an entire sector and then have a bunch of other people act as bullies along with him was really difficult. And I think I read it because I thought to myself, as we are teaching our youth that bullying is not allowed in schools, here we are as grown-ups doing, bullying an entire other side without just saying, hey, this is my thoughts, this is my feelings, and not putting down those who don't believe the same thing. It's just unbelievable to me that we have gotten to a point, even as adults, that we feel it necessary and important to judge each other on our political views and make sure that we have this divide. So, Sarah, in the work that you're doing, because you are not doing that, you're doing everything to provide the girls, no matter which side they're on, the ability to talk with empathy and to be passionate about what they're doing. What do you say to the person that may be listening right now that might be the bully? Because I really want those who are out there that don't even realize that they're doing it to understand and maybe take a step back.
First, Jody, and I don't know if you noticed, I put my hand on my heart while you were talking because I feel it so deeply. The first person I want to address is beautiful you, because it is so hard to be on the receiving end of that. And that is why when I stepped out of politics in 2020, I was like, it's getting a little insane out there. And I want to build into women, every woman, right? The ability to protect herself. And so I would say, Jody, this is where in DemocraShe, your inner best friend would come in and say, sweet pea, that is so hard. That was really unfair. That has nothing to do with you. I am so sorry that you read that. You are amazing and beautiful, and the work you do is important. And I would hope one of the things, I pull from the work of Dr. Kristen Neff a lot, and she's a compassion researcher and a self-compassion researcher. And the skills that we wire into our DemocraShe, like grounding with Mother Earth, like inner best friend, like gratitude, are compassion training. And what compassion work shows, the research shows, is the more we wire compassion for ourselves and the ability to show up kindly, the more we wire compassion for others. Because if I could speak to that human being on the end, and it sounds very condescending when you say, I'm sorry that you're hurt. And I don't mean it condescending. I'm sorry that what Jody said struck you so hard. I'm sorry that happened to you. And you are a human being who deserves worth and value as well. And, and this is our power of and hurting Jody doesn't help that. It doesn't actually add to your worth. It doesn't add to your value. It doesn't even carry your message. It's an ineffective way to carry a message. And it actually hurt Jody, who's a beautiful human being. And I hope we can find different ways to communicate, because our power of and doesn't say that you're wrong necessarily. It says, I would love to hear what you say. And when you hurt me, it's harder for me to hear it. Right. And it actually takes away from the efficacy of your message. So I both hope that we protect the person on the receiving end of that who did nothing wrong, who's just reading the comments of a podcast that she's worked very hard on. And we can reach out and hold the hand of the person who is hurt. Because I do believe I have something on my wall, and I know it's hard to hear right now that hurt people, right? And it's hard to hear because there's so much anger and rage, and I feel it too. I'm not some sort of saint who doesn't feel anger and rage. And I know that every human being has worth and value. And I know the more I anchor in that, the more I will transmit it to those around me. So I keep coming back to that and the power of and that Makaela and Hanna spoke so beautifully about, that we can hold multiple things at the same time.
Oh, wow. That was absolutely so beautiful. The other day I did post something. This was somebody posted something, and what they posted was very derogatory, and people commented under theirs. I did post something 2 weeks ago that said, I'm holding my tongue right now, really tight, or biting my tongue really hard right now, as this is such a tough time. And I definitely got beat up about that, because they're like, don't hold back, don't say, and all of that.
Yeah.
But for me, that was kind of my metaphoric way of saying how difficult this time is. So I think everybody has to do it in their own way and share it in their own way and whatever feels good for them. Knowing where we sit right now, and I never get very political on this show, but and there's an end and a but here. A lot is going on, and with what you're teaching, it has to be difficult, especially, and girls, this is going out to you as a question as well. It has to be difficult to sit in without, as you said, you still get the rage, you still get the anger, you're hearing, you're seeing. We've come so far, and now we've got, we came so far, and now we're taking back steps, years of back steps. Sarah, I'm going to ask you this, and then I'm going to ask the girls the same question. How do you continue to push that rage forward to be more about the teaching and providing the girls with what they need so that they can push through it? Because it's hard to listen to.
And I would even follow up on my point to say that Kristen Neff has two types of self-compassion. She has tender self-compassion, which is showing up for yourself in a supportive way, and she has fierce self-compassion, because preventing harm is compassionate. Holding a line for justice is compassionate. Protecting people is compassionate. So don't get me wrong when I'm saying that I hope that that person gets help and support and finds a way forward. And I will do everything in my power to protect the young women I work with from comments like that hurting. So 100%. Part of the reason that I am moving forward in this moment is I had no idea when I stepped out and was like, it's getting a little insane in 2021, that I was training my whole life for 2025. Because a lot of these skills that we're talking about, inner best friend, grounding with Mother Earth, all of those are community trauma skills. They are not processing trauma skills. They are not meant for acute trauma and PTSD, but they are to manage the triggering of our nervous system that is endemic to trauma. And 100%, there's so much trauma right now, and so many people I love are being traumatized. And one of the things that I hope that the young women who come through the DemocraShe program get is the ability to not only know that they have worth and value, but protect their radiant selves from people who would tell them that they don't. Because we will not get to an America where we are all represented, an America that we have never yet seen, but absolutely could be, unless we can keep our young women on their critical path when people are trying to push them off. We will not let that happen. And so that is part of what the DemocraShe program is in 2025 and moving forward. And I hope, Makaela and Hanna, that you feel like in some way it's protecting you and keeping you moving forward, because your voices are so important and we so need to hear them.
Absolutely. And Hanna, I want to start with you. Knowing where we are and what's going on in the world, how are you keeping yourself centered to move forward into, both of you talk about politics and wanting to get into politics and leadership roles and positions, and looking at the way the world is right now, how do you feel about going into that as a sector? Hanna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question because personally, after being with DemocraShe for a while now, I feel empowered. I feel secure in the community that I have to work alongside with, and whose values and morals align with my own and will be with me on this journey to success in politics. So in that regard, I feel as though I have a community but for the hundreds of women who don't have a DemocraShe right by their side, I really do think it's scary. And it's so interesting, the idea. It's really interesting to me that at DemocraShe we truly value leading with empathy and giving grace, and this idea that through leading with empathy and understanding, you will push and empower young women to become these intersectional leaders who will push forward policy that is beneficial for our community. So it's this idea of not being afraid to work alongside the community that has raised me and really ground on the values that we hold and continue to push this forward, push the message of DemocraShe and organizations alike so that this message goes on. And I think although there's a lot of fear and harmful rhetoric that makes it scary to run for office as a woman of color or a woman with an intersectional background. It is so important that we ground in our faith and our beliefs and continue to push forward the importance of getting leaders of such intersectional backgrounds into office. So there's so much work left to be done, but I'm really excited to work alongside DemocraShe on this long journey ahead.
Very so well put, Hannah. Thank you. Makaela?
Yeah, very similar to what Hannah said, but I feel like going into the more dangerous side of politics, it definitely feels daunting. And I know that the political world, especially when you're advocating for marginalized communities or pushing for real change, it could definitely be tough. And there's a lot of hostility and backlash that could come with it. But even with all of that, like I feel more determined than ever. And I feel like the truth is that like I shouldn't shy away from all of these challenges. If anything, they should motivate me more to be the person who can actually enact that change. And when it like comes to people who thrive on controversy or disrespect or seek reactions to gain power, I feel like by like refusing to engage, like you take away their power. So I feel like at the end of the day, like that's what I hope to do. I hope to continue to uplift the communities that I'm passionate about, supporting and serving, and then like all the other noise in the background, like cancel it out and stay true to myself and my values. Um, because otherwise I would feel like I would lose the impact that I'm trying to make. And I hope to be responsible in everything that I do. So I would say that that's how I feel about going out into the political world eventually.
Well, I wish some of the leaders in the world could hear the things that you're all saying, because there's more, they need the things that you're talking about, the power of empathy and compassion and really understanding and finding some understanding. And as a country, kindness is so needed right now towards each other. And that's something that I feel very, very strongly about sharing through the podcast. More so, as I said, we've stayed away from politics, but it's definitely getting interesting out there. Sarah, I can't believe we're almost at an hour being together, and I could talk to all of you for quite some time. But I would love, what other messages do you want to leave with my listeners that might be, downloading or watching this via the YouTube channel?
I want to make sure that people don't listen to what I have to say and think something like grief and rage and heartbreak right now aren't so real and valid. And I feel like Hannah and Makaela have said it beautifully, which is we feel all of our feelings. And one of the worst things out there is toxic positivity, which is you do not get to feel, you will be grateful, you will be happy. And it's heartbreaking. And I think it's that we feel every single ounce of grief and rage and heartbreak. And we hold space that things can be different and that they will be different. And that if we equip young women with not only the practical know-how, right, of the how to move forward in politics, how to move forward in advocacy, but the specific evidence-based resiliency skills drawn from brain science that will protect them on a path we know is difficult and we know will push back on them, and we protect them, that they will move forward to realize something that has never been but could be. And I still believe that we will see that. And I think these young leaders are the ones who will realize it. And I look in the faces of Hannah and Makaela every day, and I see that country, and I know she's out there.
So true. Hannah, what do you want to leave the listeners with today?
Yeah, I think it's so important to surround yourself with a community who is passionate about what you're passionate about and who is seeking to uplift you radically and fill you with joy and so much aspiration and hope. And I think that's what DemocraShe has done for me. In brief, DemocraShe has changed my life, and there's so many organizations out there that will do the same, empower you, give you hope, and give you all of these resiliency skills in one way or another. I feel that as you begin a journey in leadership and empowerment, it is so important to, again, seek a community. So I hope everyone surrounds themselves with their inner besties and people that support them and uplift them unconditionally.
Wonderful. Thank you. Makaela?
Yeah, I would say, like as a young leader, anyone has the power to shape the future and to not listen to pressure or the doubts that may be holding them back. And leadership isn't necessarily about being perfect. It's about being brave and taking risks and learning from your mistakes, and inspiring others along the way.
So well put. I am so excited to have met all of you. It's been such a blessing to have been introduced to Sarah and now to know you, Makaela, and Hanna, and to learn so much more about an organization that I had never heard of. I thank Catherine Curry Williams for the introduction. I always like to give credit where credit is due.
Love Kat. Thank you, Kat.
Because it's really such a beautiful thing. You know, differences in our opinions in this world doesn't make somebody wrong or right. It is okay, as you said, for that end to be in between, and we can still be friends and get along just because we may have different beliefs. It's the way we share them and the way we put them out there to each other. And to put somebody down for not having the same belief is a real bully issue right now. And so, one of the messages I want to leave from this podcast is the importance of empathy and kindness in all that we do. I only interview the change makers and inspirers who are doing incredible work, to disrupt the status quo in the best way possible. So I'm grateful to you, Sarah, and DemocraShe for all that you're doing.
We are grateful right back to you, Jody, for everything you're doing to uplift so many different people, doing so much good in the world. That I think is my favorite takeaway is know that you're not alone and there are millions of people working right alongside you to make the world a better place. And that's something that uplifts me every day.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm glad that I had the chance to speak to all of you, and I would love for you to come back again, Hanna and Makaela, just for an update as to where you're winding up at school and how things are going, and anything you want to share with us. I always love, you are the future generation coming in, and we need you. So we all learn from each other, no matter what our ages are. So I'm thrilled to have you as part of this, Sarah. Anything else before we end today?
Anything else, right? I feel like there are books to write about what else. I will say, I guess what I would like to leave your listeners with is the DemocraShe motto, which is remember, in whatever way you're trying to make change, you cannot do it wrong. You can't do it wrong because no matter what you do, you learn. And I will just leave people with before we started the workshops, I would get the peer leaders together, right? Because we'd all never done it before. And I would say, you know what we do? We prepare the best we can. We love these girls with all of our hearts. We let go of outcome because we can't control how it lands in the room. And then we learn. We prepare, we love, we let go, and we learn. And that is the motto, I think, going forward for so many of us when we doubt ourselves or are hard on ourselves. We prepare, we love, we let go, and we learn.
Ugh, I swear I wish this was around when I was younger, because it's just those messages are vital and life changing, and for some life saving when you hear that, because acceptance, especially in your teenage years, is so. And I'm speaking to the choir here. I know between Makaela and Hanna, it's hard. Judgment is fierce. It's hard. If I could go back to any time in my life, I know that it would be more in my 20s than my teens, because I know that it's hard. And so it's incredible that you're leaders and people are learning from you, Hanna and Makaela, and you're never too young to be a leader. And everybody we meet is our teacher or our student, doesn't matter what age, depends on the conversation. So thank you both for what you're doing, because you're helping so many other people, and we really appreciate it, and we need you. So thank you for that. Sarah, one more time, your website so people can find you.
Our website is DemocraShe.org. And if you go there, you find opportunities to mentor amazing girls like Makaela and Hanna. You can share our application with an incredible high school girl who's ready to run for office someday. And of course, we are a nonprofit. So it is the tax-deductible donations that fuel the work that launch Makaela's and Hanna's into the world. And you can also find me there. I would love to hear from you.
Very easy, everyone, DemocraShe.org. So I want to thank Sarah Jakle, Makaela, and Hanna for sharing today from DemocraShe. We are so grateful to the work that you are doing. I want to ask everybody to please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. If people always ask me, why is it so long? Because it's an action. Today is the day, and it is the only day we're given. So it is the day that we should live it to our fullest. And also, there are lots of new events happening for Today is the Day. So please go to todayisthedayliveit.com. You will have an opportunity to attend one of our upcoming events where you will get to mix and network with incredible change makers who are making a difference and lots of great learnings that they are sharing. And it would be wonderful to connect with all of you. Internationally, we have had such an incredible turnout from people from all over the globe. So I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large steps are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Sarah, Hanna, and Makaela, thank you again. Have a great week, everyone.